Our today's topic is Introduction and Basics of I/O. I/O means input and output. So now let us discuss the differentiation between the C and C++. So in this slide we have the differentiation between C and C++ on different parameters. The first parameter is programming type. So C is a procedural oriented language, whereas C++ is object oriented programming language. So the approach that C follows is top-down programming approach, whereas C++ follows the bottom-up programming approach. The file extension of C program is .c, whereas in CPP, in C++ we have .cpp file. So program division, in C programming language, a big program code is divided into smaller pieces, which is called functions. So functions are subprogram which are meant to perform some specific or well-defined task. So in C we divide the big program into small modules, and these modules are called functions, whereas in C++ we divide the big program into objects and classes. So structure in C not provide the feature of function declaration. We cannot declare the function inside the structure when we are talking about C programming, whereas structure in C++ provide the feature of declaring a function as a member function of a structure. So when we discuss about structure inside CPP, we are able to declare a function, we are able to create a function. So what is inline function? Now the concept of inline function, parameter is inline function, so it does not allow inline function C, but in C++ it supports the inline function. So inline function is a request which is sent to a compiler to make particular function inline. So standard I/O operations, so in C, scanf and printf used for standard input and output, whereas in CPP, in C++ we are using cin and cout as standard input and output operation. Data security, so in C language the data is not secure. Data is secure in CPP because we are using the concept of encapsulation. So that is a concept in CPP. Now pointers, so C supports only pointers, but in CPP we are using both pointers as well as references. When we are talking about call by value and call by reference in C, so call by reference is through pointers, but the actual reference is not a pointer, which is differentiated in CPP, in C++. So pointers is address and reference is reference. So we are using three things: call by value, call by reference, and call by address in CPP. So address denotes the pointers here. Variables, so in C the variable should be defined at the beginning of program, whereas in C++ allows the declare variable anywhere in the function. So point of focus, so C focus on the step of procedures that are followed to solve a problem. So we are as we have already said that C is a procedural language, so it follows certain steps or procedures to solve a particular problem. But C++ emphasizes the object and not the steps or procedures. It also it has higher abstraction level. So what is abstraction? That means whatever we want to show in a program, only those things we are allowed to show. So those things that we want not to show in the program for the user, we are just hiding it. So that concept is called the abstraction. So in CPP there is a higher level of abstraction. So function overloading is there. Function overloading is a concept of polymorphism. So C does not allow the use of function overloading, whereas C allows the function overloading. What is function overloading? Function with the same name but perform different tasks. So that is called function overloading. So data types, C language does not allow to declare strings or boolean data types. It supports built-in primitive data types, whereas C supports string as well as boolean data types both. The exception handling, so C does not support any exception handling. There is no such type of try, catch and throw like this. However, C supports the exception handling like try, catch, block is there. Function, so C does not allows the function with the default arrangements. whereas C++ allows the functions with the default arrangements. Namespace, so there is no concept of namespace in C, it's absent, but in case of C++ there is a concept of namespace. We are using namespace std, so standard namespace we are using for objects like C in and C out. So relationship, now C is a subset of C++, it cannot run C++ code. So C does not run the C++ code, whereas C is a superset of C. So C++ can run most of the C codes, while C cannot run the C++ code. Driven by function driven language, so it is object driven language. C focuses on methods or process instead of data, but C++ focus on data instead of methods or procedures. So encapsulation, C does not allows the encapsulation. Encapsulation is wrapping up of data, whereas C++ supports encapsulation. Data information hiding or data hiding, C does not support information hiding. Data are free entities and can be changed outside code, whereas encapsulation hide the data, so the data structure and operators are used as per intentions. So whatever we want to use, we are able to use those things. That is called the concept of data hiding. So whatever we want to hide, we can hide it. Memory memory management, C provides malloc calloc functions for dynamic memory allocation, whereas C++ uses only new operator for this. Data types, so supports C supports built-in data types, whereas C++ supports built-in as well as user defined data types. Concept of mapping, the mapping between data and function is very complicated in case of C, whereas in CPP data and function can be easily established using classes and objects. In class we are using data members and member functions, so data and functions are can be mapped easily. So inheritance, C does not support inheritance, C++ supports inheritance. Default header file to studio.h, stdio.h, that is standard input output header file is used in case of C, whereas in CPP IO stream.h as a default header file is used. Virtual functions, so C does not have the concept of virtual functions, whereas C++ does have the concept of virtual functions. Virtual functions means late binding. In parent there is a function in parent class and there is a function in child class, so from the object of the parent class we are able to call the object of the child class, so that is the concept of virtual functions. Keywords, there are 32 keywords in C, whereas C++ have 52 keywords. All those keywords that are in C are also in C++, but some keywords are there in C++ which are not in C, like try, catch, throw, and these are the public, private, protected, all these keywords are there in C++, but they are not in C. Polymorphism, so polymorphism is not possible in case of C, but there is a concept of polymorphism in C++, that is overloading and overriding, function overloading or operator overloading or overriding, function overriding. So these are the concepts in C. So now let us have the first question regarding this. So in CPP, C in and C out are predefined streams dash. So they are predefined streams of what? C in and C out, they are the objects. Okay, so they are the objects. Like a class can contain objects of their classes, and this phenomenon is called contain objects. So containing something inside the class, and the object contained in the class, that is called containership. The concept is containership. Now object based language differ from object oriented language as it does not support features. Which feature it does not support? Encapsulation, inheritance, data binding, abstraction, and polymorphism. So it does not support the inheritance as well as data binding. ठीक है जी? So object based language does not support the concept of inheritance as well as data binding, but it supports the concept of encapsulation, abstraction, and polymorphism. So only 2 and 3. Okay, so classes in CPP are dash. So classes in CPP, as we have already discussed, can you tell me? That is a user defined data types.